The morning sun cast a golden glow across the frost-covered grounds of Adelaide Cottage as 8-year-old Princess Charlotte pressed her face against the cool window glass. Her breath created small clouds that quickly disappeared, but her excitement remained constant. Christmas was only 3 days away, and the young princess could barely contain her joy. Charlotte had always been special, but lately, everyone seemed to notice something extraordinary about her. The way she carried herself, the gentle tilt of her head when she listened to others, and especially her radiant smile reminded people of someone very dear to the royal family. Her mother, Princess Catherine, had been the subject of much admiration throughout her years as a member of the royal family, and now Charlotte was beginning to show those same qualities that made her mother so beloved. The little princess had thick, chestnut hair that caught the light beautifully, just like her mother's had at that age. Her eyes sparkled with intelligence and kindness, and when she smiled, it seemed to light up the entire room. But it wasn't just her physical appearance that drew comparisons to Princess Catherine. Charlotte had inherited her mother's natural grace and genuine care for others. On this particular December morning, Charlotte was preparing for a very special Christmas event. The royal family was planning to visit a local children's hospital, where they would spend time with young patients who wouldn't be able to go home for Christmas. Princess Catherine had explained to Charlotte that this visit was one of the most important traditions in their family, showing love and support to those who needed it most during the holiday season. As Charlotte got dressed in her favorite red coat with gold buttons, she thought about all the children she would meet. Her mother had told her stories about previous hospital visits, describing how a simple conversation or shared laugh could brighten someone's entire day. Charlotte wanted to be just like her mother in bringing joy to others. The young princess had spent weeks preparing for this visit. She had been practicing piano pieces to perform for the children, learning Christmas carols in different languages, and even helping her mother prepare small gift bags filled with books, toys, and handwritten notes. Each note contained a personal message from Charlotte, written in her careful handwriting with little drawings of snowflakes and Christmas trees in the margins. Princess Catherine watched her daughter with pride and amazement. The similarities between them were becoming more apparent each day, not just in appearance, but in character. Charlotte had the same gentle way of speaking to people, the same ability to make others feel comfortable and valued. When Charlotte listened to someone speak, she gave them her complete attention, nodding thoughtfully and asking questions that showed she truly cared about their answers. The morning of the hospital visit arrived with a light snowfall that made everything look magical. Charlotte stood in front of her bedroom mirror, carefully adjusting her coat and making sure her hair was neat. She wanted to look her best for the children they would be visiting. As she looked at her reflection, she could almost see her mother standing behind her, offering gentle guidance and encouragement. During breakfast, the family discussed their plans for the hospital visit. Prince William explained to Charlotte that some of the children might be feeling scared or sad because they were away from home during Christmas. He told her that her job was simply to be herself, kind, caring, and genuine. Charlotte nodded seriously, understanding the importance of their mission. As they prepared to leave Adelaide Cottage, Charlotte noticed her mother taking extra care with her own appearance. Princess Catherine wore a beautiful blue coat that complemented her elegant style, and her hair was styled in soft waves that framed her face perfectly. But what struck Charlotte most was the way her mother's eyes shone with anticipation and love. This wasn't just another royal duty for Princess Catherine. It was a chance to share the Christmas spirit with children who needed it most. The car ride to the hospital gave Charlotte time to think about what she wanted to say to the children. She had prepared some jokes and stories, but mostly she planned to let the conversations flow naturally, just as her mother had taught her. Princess Catherine had always emphasized that the most meaningful interactions came from the heart, not from rehearsed speeches. When they arrived at the hospital, Charlotte was amazed by the decorations that covered every surface. The staff had worked hard to make the building feel festive and welcoming, with twinkling lights, paper snowflakes, and an enormous Christmas tree in the main lobby. The sight filled Charlotte with even more excitement about the day ahead. The hospital director greeted the royal family warmly, explaining that the children and staff had been looking forward to this visit for weeks. Some of the young patients had even prepared special performances and artwork to share with their royal visitors. Charlotte felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with excitement as they walked through the corridors toward the pediatric ward. As they entered the first room, Charlotte saw a little boy named Thomas who was about her own age. He was sitting in bed surrounded by get-well cards and stuffed animals, but his face lit up when he saw the princess. Charlotte approached his bed with the same gentle confidence she had observed in her mother countless times. "Hello, Thomas," Charlotte said softly, sitting in the chair beside his bed. "I heard you're quite the artist. Would you like to show me some of your drawings?" Thomas's eyes widened with surprise and delight. He had expected the princess to be formal and distant, but Charlotte spoke to him like a friend. He eagerly showed her his collection of artwork, explaining each picture in detail. Charlotte listened intently, asking questions about his favorite colors and what inspired his drawings. Princess Catherine watched this interaction from the doorway, her heart swelling with pride. The way Charlotte connected with Thomas was so natural and genuine. She saw herself at that age, remembering her own first experiences with charitable work and how nervous but excited she had felt about making a difference in someone's life. Charlotte spent 20 minutes with Thomas, learning about his love for dinosaurs and his dream of becoming a paleontologist when he grew up. She told him about her own interests in horses and dance, and they discovered they both loved adventure books. When it was time to move to the next room, Charlotte promised Thomas she would send him some dinosaur books from the palace library. The next room they visited housed 3 children who were dealing with various medical challenges. Charlotte entered with the same warmth and genuine interest she had shown Thomas. She spoke with each child individually, learning their names, asking about their families, and sharing stories about her own experiences at school and at home. One little girl named Emma was particularly shy at first. She had been in the hospital for several weeks and was feeling homesick and scared. Charlotte noticed Emma's hesitation and decided to share something personal to help her feel more comfortable. "I know it's hard to be away from home," Charlotte said gently, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside Emma's bed. "Sometimes when I have to travel with my family, I miss my room and my toys. But I always remember that the people who love me are thinking about me, no matter where I am." Emma's face softened, and she began to open up to Charlotte. She talked about missing her pet cat and worrying about whether Santa would be able to find her at the hospital instead of at home. Charlotte assured her that Santa was very good at finding children wherever they needed to be, and that being in the hospital meant she was surrounded by people who cared about making her feel better. As they moved through the hospital, visiting room after room, Charlotte's natural compassion and grace became more and more evident. She had an innate ability to sense what each child needed. Sometimes it was laughter and silly jokes. Other times it was quiet conversation or simply someone to listen to their concerns. In one room, they met a teenage boy named David who was feeling embarrassed about receiving a visit from royalty. Charlotte immediately put him at ease by asking about his favorite video games and sharing stories about her own gaming adventures with her brothers. She treated him like an equal, not like someone to be pitted or talked down to. Princess Catherine marveled at how Charlotte seemed to instinctively know how to interact with each person they met. It reminded her of her own journey learning to connect with people from all walks of life, but Charlotte appeared to have this gift naturally. The young princess moved through the hospital with confidence and genuine care, making each person feel special and valued. During their visit to the hospital's playroom, Charlotte joined several children in a game of Christmas charades. Her enthusiasm and dramatic interpretations of reindeer and snowmen had everyone laughing and clapping. She wasn't afraid to look silly or make mistakes. She was simply focused on bringing joy to the other children. The staff members who worked at the hospital were equally impressed by Charlotte's behavior. Nurses and doctors stopped to watch as she interacted with their young patients, noting how she seemed to bring out the best in each child she met. Her presence had a calming effect on children who were usually anxious or withdrawn. As the afternoon progressed, Charlotte presented each child with one of the special gift bags she had helped prepare. But more than the physical gifts, she gave each child her time, attention, and genuine care. She listened to their stories, laughed at their jokes, and shared in their excitement about Christmas. The visit culminated in the hospital's main recreation room, where Charlotte performed the Christmas carols she had been practicing. Her clear, sweet voice filled the room as she sang traditional songs that brought tears of joy to many adult eyes. The children joined in enthusiastically, creating a chorus of voices that seemed to embody the true spirit of Christmas. When it was time to leave, Charlotte found herself reluctant to say goodbye to all the new friends she had made. She promised several children that she would write to them and send photos of her Christmas celebrations. The genuine sadness in her eyes as she waved farewell showed everyone present that this visit had meant as much to her as it had to the children and families they had met. As the royal family walked back through the hospital corridors toward their car, Charlotte reflected on the day's experiences. She had learned so much about courage, hope, and the power of human connection. The children she met had faced challenges she could barely imagine, yet they had shown such strength and positivity. Princess Catherine placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder as they walked. She could see that Charlotte had been deeply moved by the experience, and she recognized the same feelings she had experienced during her own first charitable visits. There is something profound about witnessing the resilience of children and being able to bring even a small amount of joy into their lives. "You were wonderful today," Princess Catherine whispered to Charlotte as they reached the car. "I'm so proud of how you connected with everyone we met." Charlotte looked up at her mother with shining eyes. "They were all so brave, Mummy. I want to do more visits like this. I want to help more children feel happy." The drive home was filled with quiet conversation about the day's events. Charlotte asked thoughtful questions about the children's medical conditions and what the royal family could do to continue supporting the hospital's work. Her genuine concern and desire to make a difference showed a maturity beyond her years. As they pulled into the grounds of Adelaide Cottage, Charlotte realized that this Christmas would be different from any she had experienced before. The joy and gratitude she had witnessed at the hospital had given her a new perspective on her own blessings and privileges. She understood now why her mother placed such importance on using their position to help others. That evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Charlotte shared stories about each child she had met. She described Thomas's dinosaur drawings, Emma's sweet shyness, and David's impressive knowledge of video games. Her detailed recollections showed how carefully she had listened to each person and how much their individual stories had meant to her. Prince William and Princess Catherine exchanged meaningful glances as they listened to their daughter's enthusiastic recounting of the day. They could see that Charlotte had not just participated in a royal duty. She had discovered a passion for helping others and making a positive difference in the world. As Charlotte prepared for bed that night, she looked out her window at the snow-covered gardens and thought about all the children who were still in the hospital. She said a special prayer for each one, hoping they would feel loved and cared for during the Christmas season. She also made a promise to herself that she would continue to use her position and privileges to bring joy and support to those who needed it most. The young princess fell asleep that night with a heart full of new understanding and purpose, unaware that her natural grace and compassion had reminded everyone who witnessed her interactions of the same qualities that had made her mother such a beloved figure. Charlotte's Christmas moment at the hospital had indeed highlighted a remarkable resemblance to Princess Catherine, not just in appearance, but in the depth of character and genuine care for others that would define her future role as a member of the royal family. The following morning brought a gentle snowfall that transformed the palace grounds into a winter wonderland. Princess Charlotte woke early, her mind still filled with memories from the hospital visit. She had dreamed about the children she met, particularly little Emma, who had seemed so worried about Santa finding her. Charlotte had an idea that made her heart race with excitement. After breakfast, Charlotte approached her mother with unusual determination. Princess Catherine was in her study, responding to correspondence and reviewing the schedule for the upcoming Christmas celebrations. When Charlotte knocked softly on the door, she looked up to see her daughter's face glowing with purpose. "Mummy, I want to do something special for the children at the hospital," Charlotte announced, settling into the chair across from her mother's desk. "Yesterday made me realize how lucky we are to have Christmas at home with our family. Those children are spending Christmas away from everything familiar." Princess Catherine set down her pen and gave Charlotte her complete attention. She recognized the serious tone in her daughter's voice and the spark of determination in her eyes. It was the same look Catherine herself had worn countless times when she was planning charitable initiatives. Charlotte explained her idea with growing enthusiasm. She wanted to organize a special Christmas surprise for the hospital children, something that would make them feel truly celebrated and remembered. She had spent the early morning hours planning every detail, from personalized gifts to a special performance that would bring Christmas magic directly to their bedsides. "I want to learn more about each child," Charlotte continued, her words tumbling out quickly. "What they love, what makes them smile, what their dreams are. Then we can make Christmas gifts that are perfect just for them. Not just any gifts, but ones that show we really listened to what they told us." Princess Catherine felt a surge of pride as she listened to her daughter's passionate explanation. Charlotte's desire to create meaningful, personal connections with the hospital children reflected the same values that had guided Catherine's own charitable work throughout her years as a royal family member. Together, mother and daughter began developing Charlotte's vision into a practical plan. They would return to the hospital in 2 days, on Christmas Eve, with carefully chosen gifts and activities designed specifically for each child they had met. But this time, Charlotte wanted to take the lead in organizing everything. Charlotte spent the rest of the morning making detailed notes about each child she remembered from their visit. She wrote down Thomas's love for dinosaurs, Emma's worry about Santa, David's interest in video games, and every other personal detail she could recall. Her careful attention to these individual stories impressed everyone who observed her working. Princess Catherine watched as Charlotte transformed from an excited 8-year-old into a focused young organizer. She saw herself reflected in her daughter's methodical approach to planning and her genuine concern for others' happiness. The resemblance between them seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. That afternoon, Charlotte and her mother visited several shops in nearby Windsor, searching for the perfect gifts for each hospital child. Charlotte approached this task with remarkable thoughtfulness, rejecting toys and books that didn't seem quite right for specific children. She wanted everything to be meaningful and special. For Thomas, Charlotte selected an advanced dinosaur encyclopedia and a model kit that would allow him to build his own prehistoric creatures. She also found a book written by a real paleontologist that included stories about exciting fossil discoveries around the world. When the shop owner learned about Charlotte's mission, he offered to include some authentic fossil specimens as an extra surprise. Finding the right gift for shy Emma proved more challenging. Charlotte spent considerable time thinking about their conversation, remembering how Emma had brightened when talking about her pet cat at home. Eventually, Charlotte discovered a beautiful stuffed kitten that felt incredibly soft and realistic, along with a children's book about a brave cat who helps other animals during the holidays. For David, the teenage boy who had been embarrassed about the royal visit, Charlotte chose the latest version of a popular strategy game she had researched thoroughly. She also selected a book about video game design, thinking he might be interested in creating games himself one day. Her mother suggested including a handwritten note acknowledging his maturity and treating him as an equal. As they continued shopping, Charlotte insisted on selecting something special for every child they had met, even those whose names she couldn't perfectly remember. She described each child's personality and interest to the shop owners, determined to find gifts that would truly resonate with each recipient. The process of choosing gifts taught Charlotte valuable lessons about generosity and thoughtfulness. She learned that the best presents required careful consideration of the recipient's personality, interests, and current circumstances. It wasn't enough to choose something expensive or impressive. The gift had to show genuine understanding and care. That evening, Charlotte worked on writing personal notes to accompany each gift. She sat at her small desk in her bedroom, carefully crafting messages that would make each child feel special and remembered. Her handwriting was neat and deliberate, and she decorated each note with small drawings related to the recipient's interests. To Thomas, she wrote about her own curiosity about ancient history and encouraged him to continue exploring his passion for paleontology. She shared a funny story about visiting a natural history museum and getting lost in the dinosaur exhibit because she found it so fascinating. For Emma, Charlotte wrote a gentle message about how brave cats always find their way home, just like brave children always find ways to feel happy and loved, even when they're away from home. She promised that Santa definitely knew where to find children in hospitals, because hospitals were special places filled with people who cared. To David, Charlotte wrote, as one young person to another, acknowledging that being in the hospital during Christmas must be frustrating and difficult. She shared her own experiences with feeling frustrated when plans changed unexpectedly, and expressed her admiration for his positive attitude despite challenging circumstances. As Charlotte worked on her notes, Princess Catherine periodically checked on her progress. Each time, she found her daughter completely absorbed in her task, considering each word carefully to ensure her messages would bring comfort and joy to their recipients. The sight filled Catherine with amazement at her daughter's natural empathy and dedication. The next morning, Charlotte woke with renewed excitement about their planned Christmas Eve visit. She had arranged all the gifts carefully in her room, each one wrapped in festive paper and labeled with the recipient's name and her personal note. She had also prepared several surprise activities that would bring additional joy to the hospital children. Charlotte had been practicing magic tricks that she planned to perform for the younger children. She had learned simple card tricks and coin magic that would create moments of wonder and laughter. She had also prepared Christmas riddles and jokes that would encourage group participation and create a festive atmosphere throughout their visit. Princess Catherine suggested that Charlotte might want to perform some of the Christmas carols she had been learning, but this time in a more intimate setting. Charlotte loved this idea and began planning mini concerts for smaller groups of children, where she could tailor her song selections to their preferences and energy levels. As Christmas Eve morning arrived, Charlotte felt a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. She understood that this visit would be different from their previous one, because now she was taking primary responsibility for creating memorable experiences for the hospital children. The weight of this responsibility felt both thrilling and slightly overwhelming. During their car ride to the hospital, Charlotte reviewed her plans one final time with her mother. She had organized everything so thoroughly that Princess Catherine found herself learning from her daughter's approach to charitable work. Charlotte's natural instincts for connecting with people were being enhanced by careful planning and genuine dedication. When they arrived at the hospital, Charlotte was delighted to see that the staff had prepared special decorations for their Christmas Eve visit. The corridors were filled with the sounds of holiday music, and the aroma of fresh-baked Christmas cookies drifted through the air. The atmosphere felt magical and welcoming. Charlotte's first stop was Thomas's room, where she found him working on a jigsaw puzzle featuring various dinosaur species. His face lit up when he saw her carrying a specially wrapped package, and his excitement grew as he opened his gifts. The fossil specimens particularly amazed him, and he immediately began asking Charlotte thoughtful questions about where they had been discovered. The young princess spent considerable time with Thomas, allowing him to teach her about different dinosaur periods and characteristics. She listened with genuine interest as he explained the differences between various fossil types, and she asked questions that showed she was really paying attention to his explanations. When Charlotte presented Thomas with her handwritten note, he read it carefully and smiled broadly. He told her that no one had ever taken his paleontology interests so seriously before, and that her gifts made him feel like a real scientist. The connection between them grew stronger as they shared their mutual curiosity about the natural world. Next, Charlotte visited Emma, who was feeling much more comfortable and outgoing than during their first meeting. Emma immediately hugged the stuffed kitten Charlotte had chosen for her, and her eyes filled with happy tears as she read Charlotte's encouraging note. She told Charlotte that the kitten reminded her of her pet at home and made her feel less homesick. Charlotte spent time with Emma, looking through the cat adventure book together, reading some of the stories aloud, and discussing the brave actions of the feline hero. Emma began sharing more stories about her own cat, and Charlotte listened with the same rapt attention she had seen her mother demonstrate countless times. The visit with David proved equally successful. The teenage boy was genuinely impressed by Charlotte's thoughtful gift selection, particularly the book about video game design. He admitted that he had always been interested in creating games, but had never known where to begin learning about the process. Charlotte surprised David by revealing that she had actually played some of the games he had mentioned during their previous conversation. They spent time discussing strategy techniques and comparing their favorite gaming experiences. Charlotte treated him as an equal throughout their interaction, never condescending or talking down to him because of his age or circumstances. As Charlotte moved through the hospital, visiting each child she had met during their previous trip, her natural grace and genuine care became increasingly evident to everyone who observed her interactions. She had developed her own distinctive style of connecting with people, one that reflected her mother's influence while remaining uniquely her own. The hospital staff members who had worked with the royal family during previous visits began commenting among themselves about Charlotte's remarkable maturity and compassion. They noted how she seemed to bring out the best in each child she encountered, creating an atmosphere of joy and hope wherever she went. Charlotte's magic tricks were a tremendous hit with the younger children, who gasped and clapped enthusiastically at each illusion. She had practiced enough to perform smoothly, but more importantly, she interacted with her audience in ways that made them feel like participants rather than passive observers. During one particularly memorable moment, Charlotte was performing card tricks for a group of children in the playroom when she noticed a little boy named Marcus sitting alone in the corner. Instead of continuing with her planned performance, she approached Marcus individually and asked if he would like to be her special assistant for the next trick. Marcus had been feeling left out and overwhelmed by all the activity, but Charlotte's personal invitation made him feel included and important. She taught him how to help with the magic trick, giving him specific responsibilities that made him feel like an essential part of the performance. The other children cheered enthusiastically when Marcus successfully completed his part of the trick. Princess Catherine observed this interaction with particular pride, recognizing her daughter's instinctive ability to notice when someone felt excluded and take immediate action to include them. It was a quality that Catherine herself had worked hard to develop throughout her years of public service, but Charlotte seemed to possess it naturally. As the afternoon progressed, Charlotte led the children in singing Christmas carols, adapting her selections based on their energy levels and preferences. She included traditional songs that everyone knew, as well as some newer holiday music that the older children particularly enjoyed. Her voice blended beautifully with the children's chorus, creating moments of pure Christmas magic. The culmination of Charlotte's Christmas Eve visit came when she gathered all the children who were able to participate in the hospital's main recreation room for a special storytelling session. She had prepared several Christmas stories that emphasized themes of hope, courage, and the power of friendship during difficult times. Charlotte's storytelling captivated her young audience completely. She used different voices for various characters, incorporated gestures and expressions that brought the stories to life, and paused at dramatic moments to build suspense and engagement. The children listened with rapt attention, completely absorbed in the magical world Charlotte created through her words. When it was time for the royal family to leave, Charlotte felt the same reluctance she had experienced during their previous visit. She had formed genuine connections with each child she met, and saying goodbye felt difficult. However, she had also gained confidence in her ability to make a meaningful difference in others' lives. As they walked through the hospital corridors toward the exit, several staff members approached Charlotte to thank her personally for the joy she had brought to their young patients. They told her that many children had been talking excitedly about her visit and counting down the days until Christmas Eve. Her presence had created anticipation and happiness during what could have been a very difficult time. The drive home gave Charlotte time to process the day's experiences and reflect on what she had learned about herself and her capabilities. She realized that she had successfully planned and executed a complex charitable initiative, bringing happiness to dozens of children while developing her own skills and confidence. Princess Catherine spent the journey home discussing the day's events with Charlotte, helping her understand the broader implications of their work. They talked about the responsibility that came with their privileged position and the satisfaction that resulted from using their advantages to help others. That evening, as the royal family gathered for their traditional Christmas Eve celebration, Charlotte shared detailed stories about each child she had visited. Her accounts were filled with specific details about their personalities, interests, and responses to the gifts and activities she had prepared. Her family listened with admiration and growing respect for her developing charitable instincts. As Charlotte prepared for bed on Christmas Eve night, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction and purpose. She had successfully created magical Christmas moments for children who needed them most, and in the process, she had discovered her own passion for charitable work. She understood now that being a princess meant much more than wearing beautiful clothes or living in palaces. It meant using her position to bring joy and hope to others. Looking back on the past few days, Charlotte realized that her Christmas Eve hospital visit had been one of the most meaningful experiences of her young life. She had learned valuable lessons about empathy, planning, and the profound satisfaction that came from making others happy. More importantly, she had begun to understand her own potential to make a positive difference in the world. Christmas morning dawned crisp and bright at Adelaide Cottage, with fresh snow covering the gardens like a pristine white blanket. Princess Charlotte woke before sunrise, but instead of rushing downstairs to see what presents awaited her under the family Christmas tree, she found herself thinking about the children at the hospital and wondering how they were spending their special morning. She quietly slipped out of bed and padded to her window, looking out at the peaceful winter landscape. The sight was beautiful, but Charlotte's heart was with the brave young patients she had met over the past few days. She wondered if Thomas was excited about exploring his new dinosaur books, if Emma was cuddling her soft kitten toy, and if David was already trying out his new video game. When Charlotte finally joined her family for Christmas morning celebrations, she carried herself with a new sense of maturity and purpose that didn't go unnoticed. Prince William and Princess Catherine exchanged meaningful glances as they observed their daughter's thoughtful demeanor and genuine happiness that seemed to come from within rather than from anticipation of receiving gifts. The royal family's Christmas morning traditions were warm and intimate, focused on spending quality time together rather than elaborate ceremonies. They exchanged thoughtful presents, shared a special breakfast, and took turns reading favorite Christmas stories aloud. Throughout these activities, Charlotte participated with joy and enthusiasm, but her experiences at the hospital had given her a deeper appreciation for the simple pleasure of being surrounded by family. During breakfast, Charlotte surprised everyone by asking if they could establish a new family tradition. She wanted to spend part of every Christmas day reaching out to people who might be spending the holiday alone or in difficult circumstances. Her suggestions sparked a meaningful conversation about the responsibilities that came with their privileged position and the importance of remembering others during times of celebration. Princess Catherine was particularly moved by her daughter's suggestion, recognizing in Charlotte's words the same values that had guided her own approach to royal duties throughout the years. The idea that Charlotte had internalized these principles so naturally and was already thinking about ways to expand their charitable work showed remarkable maturity for someone so young. After breakfast, Charlotte spent time writing thank you letters to the hospital staff who had made their visits possible. She wanted to express her gratitude for their dedication to caring for sick children and for welcoming the royal family so warmly. Each letter was carefully crafted to acknowledge specific staff members' contributions and the difference they made in children's lives every day. As Charlotte worked on her letters, she found herself reflecting on all the people who had contributed to making the hospital visit successful, from the doctors and nurses who provided medical care to the cleaning staff who kept everything spotless. Everyone played an important role in creating an environment where healing and hope could flourish. The young princess also began planning future charitable initiatives that would build on her successful hospital visits. She had discovered that she possessed natural talents for connecting with people and bringing joy to difficult situations. Now she wanted to explore how she could develop these abilities and use them to make an even greater impact. Princess Catherine joined Charlotte in her room as she was finishing her letters, and they began discussing potential future projects that would allow Charlotte to continue developing her charitable interests. Catherine shared stories from her own early experiences with royal duties, describing the learning process involved in understanding how to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Their conversation revealed how much Charlotte had absorbed from observing her mother's approach to public service over the years. Without realizing it, she had been learning important lessons about empathy, genuine engagement, and the power of personal connections to create positive change in the world. As the afternoon progressed, Charlotte received an unexpected phone call that would prove to be one of the most meaningful moments of her Christmas day. The hospital director was calling to share news about how the children were responding to Charlotte's Christmas Eve visit and the gifts she had so thoughtfully selected for each of them. Thomas had spent the entire morning absorbed in his dinosaur encyclopedia, sharing fascinating facts with anyone who would listen. He had already begun building his dinosaur model and was making plans to write Charlotte a letter about his progress. The hospital staff reported that his enthusiasm and excitement had been infectious, brightening the mood throughout the entire pediatric ward. Emma had barely let go of her stuffed kitten since receiving it, carrying it with her everywhere and introducing it to other children as her royal cat. She had been reading the adventure book about brave cats and was already asking when she might be able to write to Princess Charlotte about her own cat at home. David had been impressed enough by the video game design book to start sketching ideas for his own game concepts. He had shared Charlotte's thoughtful note with his parents, who were amazed by her maturity and genuine consideration for their son's feelings and interests. But perhaps most importantly, the hospital director explained that Charlotte's visit had created a lasting impact on the entire hospital community. Children who hadn't been directly involved in the royal visit had heard enthusiastic stories from those who had participated, creating a ripple effect of joy and excitement that extended far beyond the immediate recipients of Charlotte's attention. Hearing this news filled Charlotte with a profound sense of satisfaction and purpose. She realized that her efforts had succeeded beyond her wildest expectations, not just in bringing temporary happiness to individual children, but in creating an atmosphere of hope and celebration that benefited the entire hospital community. The phone call also included requests from several children who wanted to maintain contact with Princess Charlotte. They had been so moved by her genuine interest in their lives and stories that they hoped to continue their friendships through letters and perhaps future visits. Charlotte was delighted by these requests and immediately began planning how to nurture these new relationships. That evening, As the royal family gathered for their traditional Christmas dinner, Charlotte shared the news from the hospital with obvious pride and joy. Her detailed account of each child's response to their gifts demonstrated how carefully she had listened during their interactions and how much their individual happiness meant to her. Prince William and Princess Catherine found themselves marveling at their daughter's transformation over the past few days. The confident, compassionate young woman sitting at their dinner table seemed to have grown years of maturity since their first hospital visit. Charlotte had discovered something important about herself and her potential to make a positive impact on the world. The conversation during Christmas dinner naturally turned to discussions about the royal family's charitable work and the various ways they could use their platform to support important causes. Charlotte listened intently as her parents shared stories about their own favorite charitable initiatives and the personal satisfaction they derived from helping others. For the first time, Charlotte began to understand the broader context of her family's public role and the opportunities it provided for making a meaningful difference in society. She realized that her hospital visits were just the beginning of what could become a lifelong commitment to using her position and privileges to help others. After dinner, Charlotte spent time organizing her thoughts and impressions from the past few days into a personal journal. She wanted to record not just the events that had occurred, but her own emotional responses and the lessons she had learned about herself and her capabilities. Writing in her journal helped Charlotte process the magnitude of what she had experienced and accomplished. She had successfully planned and executed charitable initiatives that brought genuine joy to children facing serious challenges. More importantly, she had discovered a passion for helping others that felt authentic and sustainable. As Charlotte wrote, she found herself making connections between her recent experiences and observations she had made about her mother's charitable work over the years. She began to understand the deeper motivations behind Princess Catherine's dedication to various causes and the personal satisfaction that came from making a positive difference in people's lives. The young princess also reflected on the specific qualities that had helped her connect so effectively with the hospital children. Her natural empathy, genuine curiosity about others' experiences, and ability to listen without judgment had all contributed to the success of their interactions. Charlotte realized that these same qualities were ones she had observed in her mother countless times during public engagements and charitable visits. The resemblance between them extended far beyond physical appearance to include fundamental character traits and approaches to interacting with others. As she prepared for bed on Christmas night, Charlotte felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunities she had been given to make a difference in others' lives. She also felt excited about the possibilities that lay ahead for expanding her charitable work and developing her abilities to help others. Looking out her bedroom window at the snow-covered gardens, Charlotte thought about all the children at the hospital who were spending their first night after Christmas. She hoped they were feeling loved and celebrated, and she made a mental promise to continue staying in touch with those who had expressed interest in maintaining their friendships. The young princess also began thinking about other groups of people who might benefit from similar attention and support. She wondered about elderly people spending holidays alone, families struggling with financial difficulties, and children in other institutions who might feel forgotten during special occasions. Charlotte's expanding awareness of social issues and her growing desire to address them reflected the same progressive development that had characterized her mother's journey toward becoming an effective charitable advocate. The similarities between their approaches and motivations were becoming more pronounced with each new experience. As she drifted off to sleep, Charlotte's last conscious thoughts were about the letters she planned to write to her new friends at the hospital. She wanted to maintain the connection she had formed and continue providing encouragement and support to children who had shown such courage in facing their medical challenges. The Christmas season had given Charlotte much more than she had ever expected. Instead of simply receiving gifts and enjoying family celebrations, she had discovered her own capacity for bringing joy to others and making a meaningful difference in difficult situations. This discovery would shape her understanding of her role and responsibilities for years to come. The parallels between Charlotte's natural charitable instincts and her mother's established reputation for compassionate public service had become impossible to ignore. Both possessed the same genuine interest in others' well-being, the same ability to connect personally with people from all backgrounds, and the same dedication to using their positions for positive social impact. As Christmas Day came to an end, it was clear that Charlotte had experienced a transformative period of growth and self-discovery. The confident, caring young woman who had emerged from these experiences bore a remarkable resemblance to Princess Catherine, not just in appearance, but in the depth of character and commitment to service that would define her future role. The hospital visits had revealed Charlotte's natural talents for empathy, leadership, and genuine human connection. These qualities, combined with her royal position and family support, positioned her to potentially become an influential advocate for children's welfare and other important causes as she continued to mature and develop her charitable interests. Most importantly, Charlotte had learned that true satisfaction came not from receiving attention or accolades, but from knowing that her efforts had brought comfort, joy, and hope to others during difficult times. This fundamental understanding would serve as the foundation for all her future charitable endeavors and public service commitments. The remarkable resemblance between Princess Charlotte and Princess Catherine had been highlighted not just in a single Christmas moment, but throughout a series of experiences that revealed the depth of character and natural compassion that both mother and daughter possessed in abundance. The weeks following Christmas brought a steady stream of letters to Adelaide Cottage, each one addressed to Princess Charlotte from the children she had met during her hospital visits. The young princess treasured every letter, reading each one multiple times and carefully crafting thoughtful responses that continued the friendships she had begun during the holiday season. Thomas had become particularly prolific in his correspondence, sending Charlotte detailed drawings of the dinosaur model he was building and sharing new facts he had learned from his encyclopedia. His letters were filled with enthusiasm and gratitude, but more importantly, they showed how Charlotte's encouragement had inspired him to pursue his paleontology interests with renewed passion and confidence. Emma's letters arrived with small drawings of cats and stories about her recovery progress. She had named her stuffed kitten Princess in honor of Charlotte's visit, and she wrote about the comfort the toy provided during difficult medical procedures. Her letters revealed how much Charlotte's compassionate attention had meant to a little girl feeling scared and far from home. David surprised Charlotte by sending her updates about his video game design projects, complete with character sketches and level descriptions. He had taken Charlotte's thoughtful gift as serious encouragement of his creative interests, and his letters showed remarkable progress in developing his ideas into coherent game concepts. Each letter Charlotte received reinforced her growing understanding of how meaningful personal connections could have lasting positive impacts on people's lives. She realized that her hospital visits had created ongoing relationships rather than simply brief moments of charity, and this realization deepened her commitment to maintaining these friendships. Princess Catherine often found Charlotte at her desk, surrounded by letters and craft supplies as she worked on responses to her young correspondents. The care and attention Charlotte devoted to each reply demonstrated the same genuine interest in others' well-being that had made her hospital visits so successful. As January progressed, Charlotte began receiving invitations from other charitable organizations who had heard about her remarkable success with the hospital children. Word had spread throughout royal circles about the young princess's natural abilities and genuine dedication to helping others, leading to requests for her participation in various charitable initiatives. Charlotte approached these new opportunities with the same thoughtful consideration she had brought to her hospital planning. She wanted to ensure that any charitable work she undertook would be meaningful and sustainable, rather than simply fulfilling obligations or seeking positive publicity. Working with her parents, Charlotte began developing criteria for evaluating charitable opportunities. She wanted to focus on initiatives that would allow her to form personal connections with the people she was trying to help, rather than participating in events where she would simply make brief appearances without genuine engagement. The young princess was particularly drawn to causes that involved children facing various challenges, recognizing that her age and natural empathy made her especially effective at connecting with young people. However, she also wanted to expand her understanding of different social issues and learn about ways to address various forms of need and hardship. Princess Catherine guided Charlotte through the process of researching different charitable organizations and understanding their missions, methods, and track records. This education helped Charlotte develop a more sophisticated understanding of social issues and the various approaches available for addressing them effectively. Through these discussions, Charlotte learned about the importance of sustainable charitable work that addressed root causes rather than simply providing temporary relief. She began to understand how her position could be used not just to bring immediate comfort to individuals, but to raise awareness about broader issues and advocate for systemic improvements. As Charlotte's reputation for compassionate and effective charitable work spread, she began receiving media attention that focused on her resemblance to Princess Catherine. Journalists and royal watchers commented frequently on the similarities between mother and daughter, not just in appearance, but in their approaches to public service and their natural abilities to connect with people. This media attention brought both opportunities and challenges for the young princess. While it increased awareness of her charitable interests and attracted support for the causes she championed, it also created pressure to maintain high standards and continue developing her public service capabilities. Charlotte handled the increased attention with remarkable maturity, remaining focused on the substance of her charitable work rather than becoming distracted by publicity or praise. She understood that the real measure of her success lay in the positive impacts she could create for others, not in the recognition she might receive for her efforts. Princess Catherine helped Charlotte navigate the complexities of public attention while maintaining her authentic commitment to helping others. Together, they developed strategies for using media interest to benefit charitable causes while protecting Charlotte's privacy and allowing her to continue developing at her own pace. During February, Charlotte embarked on her first major charitable initiative beyond the hospital visits. She partnered with a local literacy organization to establish a reading program for children in underserved communities. The project combined Charlotte's love of storytelling with her desire to address educational inequality. Planning the literacy program required Charlotte to develop new skills in project management, community outreach, and educational programming. She worked closely with professional educators to design activities that would be both fun and educationally valuable for children with diverse backgrounds and learning needs. Charlotte's approach to the literacy program reflected the same personal touch that had made her hospital visits so successful. Instead of simply reading to groups of children, she took time to learn about each participant's interests and reading level, tailoring her interactions to meet individual needs and encourage personal growth. The success of the literacy program exceeded everyone's expectations, including Charlotte's own. Children who had previously shown little interest in reading became enthusiastic about books and stories. Parents reported significant improvements in their children's academic confidence and performance at school. Most importantly for Charlotte, the literacy program provided additional evidence of her ability to identify meaningful ways to help others and execute charitable initiatives that created lasting positive change. Her confidence in her own capabilities grew with each successful project, encouraging her to take on increasingly ambitious charitable endeavors. As spring arrived, Charlotte began planning her most ambitious project yet, a comprehensive support program for families dealing with serious childhood illnesses. The initiative would combine elements from all her previous charitable work while addressing the broader needs of entire families rather than just individual children. The Family Support Program represented a significant step forward in Charlotte's charitable development, requiring her to work with multiple organizations, coordinate complex logistics, and address various types of needs simultaneously. It was exactly the kind of sophisticated charitable initiative that Princess Catherine had been developing throughout her own career in public service. Charlotte's planning process for the Family Support Program demonstrated her growing sophistication in understanding social issues and developing effective responses to complex problems. She conducted extensive research, consulted with experts in various fields, and carefully designed programming that would address both immediate needs and long-term challenges. The program included financial assistance for families facing medical expenses, emotional support services for siblings and parents, educational resources to help families understand medical conditions, and recreational activities designed to bring moments of joy and normalcy during difficult times. Charlotte's vision for the Family Support Program reflected her deep understanding of the ripple effects that childhood illness could have on entire family systems. Her approach acknowledged that effective charitable work often required addressing multiple interconnected issues rather than focusing on single problems in isolation. As she worked on developing the Family Support Program, Charlotte found herself drawing heavily on lessons she had learned from her mother's charitable work over the years. The similarities between their approaches became even more pronounced as Charlotte tackled increasingly complex social issues. The media attention surrounding Charlotte's expanding charitable work continued to emphasize her remarkable resemblance to Princess Catherine, both in terms of their shared commitment to helping others and their natural abilities to connect with people from all backgrounds. Royal commentators began speculating about Charlotte's potential future role in the royal family's charitable work, noting that she seemed to possess all the qualities necessary to become a highly effective advocate for various important causes. Her natural empathy, genuine interest in others' well-being, and growing expertise in charitable programming positioned her to potentially take on significant responsibilities as she continued to mature. By summer, Charlotte's reputation as a compassionate and effective young charitable advocate was firmly established. She had successfully completed multiple projects, maintained ongoing relationships with beneficiaries of her work, and demonstrated remarkable growth in her understanding of social issues and charitable methodology. The transformation that Charlotte had undergone since her first Christmas hospital visit was evident to everyone who worked with her. She had evolved from an enthusiastic but inexperienced 8-year-old into a confident young leader capable of planning and executing sophisticated charitable initiatives. Perhaps most importantly, Charlotte had maintained her authentic commitment to helping others throughout her rapid development as a charitable advocate. Success and recognition had not changed her fundamental motivation or her genuine care for the people she sought to help. As Charlotte celebrated her 9th birthday in the spring, she reflected on the remarkable year she had experienced since discovering her passion for charitable work. The shy, uncertain little girl who had nervously approached her first hospital visit had been replaced by a confident young woman with clear goals and proven abilities. Looking toward the future, Charlotte began making plans for expanding her charitable work even further. She wanted to develop international programs that would allow her to help children in other countries, and she was beginning to understand how her position in the royal family could be used to advocate for policy changes that would benefit vulnerable populations. The remarkable resemblance between Princess Charlotte and Princess Catherine had become one of the most widely discussed aspects of the royal family's charitable work. Observers noted that Charlotte seemed to have inherited not just her mother's physical appearance, but also her capacity for genuine empathy, her natural leadership abilities, and her unwavering commitment to using her privileged position to help others. As Charlotte's first year of serious charitable work drew to a close, it was clear that she had established herself as a significant figure in her own right, rather than simply following in her mother's footsteps. While the similarities between them were undeniable, Charlotte had developed her own distinctive approach to charitable work that reflected her unique personality and interests. The Christmas moment that had first highlighted Charlotte's resemblance to Princess Catherine had proven to be just the beginning of a remarkable journey of personal growth and social impact. Charlotte's natural compassion and dedication to helping others had blossomed into sophisticated charitable expertise that would serve her well throughout her future role in the royal family. Looking back on the year's experiences, Charlotte understood that her charitable work had changed her in fundamental ways. She had discovered her own capacity for making a meaningful difference in the world, and this discovery had given her a clear sense of purpose and direction for her future development. The young princess had learned that true leadership meant serving others rather than seeking personal recognition or advantage. This lesson would guide her approach to all her future responsibilities and opportunities, ensuring that she would continue to honor the example set by her mother while developing her own unique contributions to charitable work and public service. Most significantly, Charlotte had come to understand that her resemblance to Princess Catherine extended far beyond surface similarities to include the fundamental values and character traits that made effective charitable work possible. This understanding would serve as the foundation for her continued growth as both a person and a public figure dedicated to making the world a better place for others.